Alex Murdaugh, the South Carolina lawyer involved in multiple scandals, now accused of stealing millions from an insurance payment meant for the sons of his deceased housekeeper. We're going to speak with his attorney after this report from Amy Robach. Good morning, Amy.
Hey, good morning to you, George. Alex Murdaugh is, yes, back in the headlines this morning, arrested on suspicion of misappropriating settlement funds in connection with the 2018 death of his family's longtime housekeeper. Alex Murdaugh under arrest. The 53-year-old taken into custody in Florida Thursday morning upon his release from a drug rehab facility in Orlando. Authorities charging him with 2 felony counts of obtaining property by false pretenses relating to a recent lawsuit accusing him of stealing millions in insurance money, which was meant to go to the sons of Gloria Satterfield, his family's longtime housekeeper, who died after a purported trip and fall incident at the Murdaugh, South Carolina home in 2018. In a statement to ABC News, an attorney for Satterfield's son says, in part, the charges are a very good start to holding everyone accountable who either participated knowingly or breached their duties. The bottom line is, no one is above the law. It is the latest turn in an ongoing saga. Murdaugh's wife and 22-year-old son brutally murdered on the grounds of the family's home in June. Their murders have not been solved. This week, one of Murdaugh's attorneys saying he has been a person of interest since the killings, but insists he loved them, had no motive to kill them, and was with his ailing mother when the coroner says the murders happened. No one has been charged in connection with their deaths. Before Thursday's charges, Murdaugh was already facing other charges after allegedly hiring Curtis Edward Smith to shoot and kill him on the side of a road 3 months later after the murders so that his living son Buster could collect a $10 million life insurance policy. According to the New York Times, Smith told them when he met Murdaugh that September afternoon, Murdaugh was holding a loaded gun. He says Murdaugh asked him to shoot him in the head. He says he refused, but then Mr. Murdaugh moved as if he was going to shoot himself in the head. Mr. Smith grabbed his arm and twisted it behind his back. The gun went off. Smith says he asked Murdaugh if he was okay, and when he indicated he was, Smith drove away.
Yeah, I say like a brother to me. I'd have done anything in the world for him, almost anyway.
Murdaugh called 911 and was airlifted to a hospital. Now, regarding Thursday's arrest, if found guilty, Murdaugh could face up to 10 years behind bars, George.
Okay, Amy, thanks. Let's bring in Alex Murdaugh's attorney, Dick Harpootlian. And Mr. Harpootlian, thank you for joining us again this morning. You recently said, no question, Alex Murdaugh has done some things that he regrets. What are those things?
Well, obviously, the financial transaction issue is something he regrets, and obviously getting Eddie Smith to kill him, he regrets. I will say to you, George, that the reason I'm on this show this morning is that the just thirst for knowledge about this case has driven a number of outlets to say things that are false, to run a story of Eddie Smith saying that he didn't shoot Al. Apparently told the Today Show yesterday Alec wasn't hit, wasn't bleeding. And we furnished to you this morning medical records from the hospital, which indicate he had 2 bullet wounds in the head, his skull was fractured, he had a brain bleed, and he was put in ICU because his life was in danger as a result of being shot in the head.
So he does admit to asking Mr. Smith to kill him so he could collect on the insurance policy. He admits to that.
Yes.
But he denies the idea that Mr. Smith is told that he tried to stop Mr. Murdaugh from actually shooting himself.
That's totally untrue, according to Alec. He met with Smith, called Smith. Smith was his longtime drug dealer, according to Alec. He met with Smith on the side of the road, gave him the gun, said, I'm going to look like I broke down, drive by and shoot me, which is exactly what Smith did. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Smith's bullet did not penetrate his skull. It did fracture his skull. It left what we believe is an entrance and exit wound on the side of his head. He was medevaced to the Savannah Hospital, where they did a CAT scan, skull fracture, bullet wound, brain bleed, oxygen got into the brain. They had to put him in ICU. They don't put people in intensive care units these days or any time unless they need intensive care. He suffered a bullet wound to the head. And so Eddie Smith's not telling the truth, and obviously he's got reasons not to tell the truth.
Does he admit that he did steal this $3 million in settlement money that was supposed to go to the sons of his housekeeper?
He'll be addressing that. I think we're going to have a bond hearing early next week on those issues. And he has indicated clearly that he is going to try to right every wrong, financial wrong, and others that he may have committed. Look, he's reconciled to the fact he's going to prison. No one, he understands that. He's a lawyer. Was a lawyer for 25 years. He gets it. And George, you know, I've been a lawyer for 40 years. I've prosecuted and defended over 100 murder cases. I've prosecuted or defended 12 death penalty cases. These cases need to be litigated in the court of law, not on some blog somewhere, and that's the problem here. You know, the journalistic source here on one story was a magazine whose claim to fame is they have once a year they name the sexiest man in the world, made a claim that Maggie had gone to a domestic lawyer. Not true. According to unnamed sources. I mean, that's what we're dealing with. And the reason I'm here is Alec wants to set the record straight. Normally we would wait and do this in the court of law, but we're doing it because people, there's just these hysterical theories out there, and we want to go ahead and address them.
Talk about these hysterical theories, but even the stuff that you've just admitted to is pretty serious right there. He's also a person of interest, according to your fellow attorney, in the unsolved murders of his wife and son. Have the police told you why they're looking at him? Does he deny any involvement in the murder of his wife and son?
He denies. Well, let me say this to you. I represented Paul, the son, when he was accused in this boat homicide. I spent months, almost a year and a half, with Alec, Paul, and Maggie. All I saw was domestic tranquility, love, and affection, number one. Number two, yes, he denies any involvement, any knowledge. He found them. And the third thing, the most important thing is this. When the police show up and they find a dead wife and a dead son and the husband finds them, you know, most times it's going to turn out to be that the husband was involved. And that, unfortunately, is the assumption SLED made that night. And a number of missteps since then in investigating the case because they keep trying to pound that square peg into the round hole. Somebody out there is responsible for the death, the horrible, almost execution-style deaths of Maggie and Paul. It's not Alec.
You've been very forthright here this morning. You recently said that Murdaugh's biggest crime was being born into a family that had money and power and has fallen from grace. What do you mean by that, and do you stand by it?
Well, I mean that they were born. I knew Alec's grandfather, who was a prosecutor, his father, who was a prosecutor with me. I've known him for 40 years. I didn't know Alec very well. But the family enjoys status and financial success in that community for over 100 years. And with that success, with that privilege, comes responsibility. And unfortunately, Alec has forgotten that at some point. Got addicted to. And by the way, those medical records show he was positive for opiates and barbiturates on the night that he was taken to Savannah Hospital. He has a long-term Oxycontin opiate addiction, which drove him. Well, I don't know, it drove him, but it put him in a position where he did these stupid, illegal things.
Mr. Arputian, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.